Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on this Sunday, September afternoon with extraordinary temperatures where we are joining the global fight against fossil fuels to end fossil fuels now. We're here in central London, just left Victoria. We joined the march here in London where there are, at the moment, there's about 40 different demonstrations, actions, protests happening all over the UK, and over 400 different actions happening over today, yesterday and tomorrow, all over the world. In the run-up to the UN Summit on Climate Ambition happening in New York shortly. You don't have to be a climate scientist to realise that it is currently the 16th of September and it is hot. This is not normal, this is not okay. We've had major floods, we've had horrendous fires, we've had it all in the short space of just a few months. And the people here are to say, enough. No, it's not okay that we have more licenses being given to fossil fuel companies. No, it's not okay that we're going to be drilling for gas and oil in the North Sea. No, it's not okay that there are absolutely no ambitious plans to tackle the climate and ecological emergency. And so this is a rather large group of people here today in London, but we're also in Bristol, Manchester, Edinburgh. There were things happening in Oxford, all over the country. People are taking to the streets to let their voices be heard, because this is no joke. This is serious. It's not long until Extinction Rebellion's 5-year anniversary on the 31st of October. And since then, we have raised the profile of the crisis, but the crisis, sadly and unavoidably, because of the governments that we have in place, have been getting worse and worse and worse. We're now seeing extreme weather events unlike any we've seen before. We're seeing mass wildfires, we're seeing mass floods. Switches from floods and extreme drought to floods are I've ever seen before. And yeah, even as I'm standing here, and I just can't believe where we are, I think we're going to go and watch a clip from some of the protests happening around the country and around the world. So let's have a look.
Prohibit us to say no to ensuring a dangerous and irresponsible project. You are insurers. You are society's risk managers.
We're here today to ask Probitas Insurance Company not to insure the West Cumbria coal mine. So this is part of a series of actions going on all over the country today, hoping that these insurance companies will do the right thing to publicly state that they will not insure the West Cumbria coal mine.
Millions more across the world are saying no to fossil fuels. No to fossil fuels. No to West Cumbria coal mine. No to the West Cumbria coal mine.
Here in Manchester are the offices of several really important insurance companies. They're all insurance companies that are part of Lloyd's of London, and they have the power to actually shape our future. Because if they decide not to insure the West Cumbria coal mine, then the coal mine simply can't go ahead.
Well, most people know that today the last thing you do for the sake of the environment and the planet is to open a coal mine. So we're encouraging this company to join others in saying, no, we will not insure it.
Surely, looking at the risk of climate breakdown, this is a no-brainer. We should not need to be here asking you to do what clearly needs doing.
Coal mine can't operate without insurance. So that's why we're here today. There's a coalition of groups. I'm here with Extinction Rebellion, and we've created a sort of performative, family-friendly action with a bunch of canaries, human canaries. You'll remember the metaphor, the canary in the coal mine, and so the canaries are highlighting the fact that the coal mine is toxic and it must not go ahead.
So you're back here in London with us live. We're just going through the Victoria area and we are protesting in solidarity with this movement here that got this global fight to end fossil fuels. So just to highlight that, you see a lot of XR people here. Obviously, we've got our lovely XR flags, but this is very much a coalition of groups coming together. As I said, we've got this march here today in London, but there's also things happening all over the UK. We've got over 40 events over these 3 days, starting yesterday and finishing off tomorrow. And all sorts of groups are involved. It's Fossil Free London, Just Stop Oil, we've got Mothers Rebellion, we've got all sorts of different groups joining these protests in all the various locations. And then obviously we've got the big one tomorrow in New York City, where the UN summit is going to be taking place. So at the moment, we are just heading towards Parliament Square to let the government know that it is really quite unacceptable the way that things are going. And we hear that even Rishi Sunak will most likely not even be attending the UN summit on climate ambition. So let's see what other people feel about that. Let's go to another clip to see what other groups are up to.
Fossil fuels! Stop funding 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 fossil fuels!
So that was a group of rebels blocking Citibank in New York City. So as you can see, I wasn't lying when I told you this is happening all over the world. So we are here joining rebels and our allies in London, but there is stuff happening all over the world. And obviously, it has to be a joint global effort because climate and the environment don't recognize our human-made borders, and this issue is affecting everybody. What is really interesting about this coalition is that the focus is really on global justice. There's a huge acknowledgement to the fight that's already been going on by indigenous groups for decades and generations. And I believe we're going to see another clip now, so come and join us again later. So as you can see, those were our allies, our brothers and sisters in Pakistan, where of course we've seen the most horrendous flooding. They are at the front line of the climate and ecological emergency with very little, proportionally very little responsibility for the actual emergency. Of course, we in consumer-heavy countries bear much more responsibility for the temperature increase and for ecological breakdown, for habitat loss, for deforestation. And so it is no surprise that we need to focus on justice. The people responsible need to be helping with the reparations to the damage that's been done. This is socio-economic damage, but it's also environmental damage. and very much also emotional and mental damage that's been done to generations of people that have suffered to allow certain countries to grow and prosper at the cost of people and, of course, the planet. So what you saw just now was a big protest event in Pakistan where the people are also taking to the streets. And I'm told we're going to another clip now, so let's have a look.
Another world is possible. No new gas or LNG. Sign the fossil fuel treaty. No more gas or LNG. Sign the
I think we're swimming today, John.
System change, not climate change.
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 So some great images there from Dublin, where people are having slightly different weather circumstances than we are, seeing lots of umbrellas and raincoats on. So again, Dublin is actually, in Ireland, they've just had their Citizens' Assembly on biodiversity, which is so exciting. You've probably heard me talk about Citizens' Assemblies once or twice, but we do like to use the Irish example because they obviously had the Citizens' Assembly on abortion and gay marriage, which are very, very high profile. But then they also just had their Citizens' Assembly on biodiversity loss. And people were shocked to find out how bad the situation on biodiversity is in Ireland and indeed around the world. So I'm glad to see that our friends and allies in Dublin are also taking to the streets, as are we here. It's slightly sunnier over here, but oof, I could do with a little bit of rain, I'm not going to lie. Anyway, let's talk about this alliance. So the global fight to end fossil fuels, they have some demands, and they're really interesting demands because a lot of it we at XR are already thinking about and looking at, and are also part of our demands as well. So it's lovely to see that, you know, we're not alone in this and we're not crazy. Everybody is thinking about the things that need to happen: just transition, an end to all new fossil fuel licenses, and reparations are so important. They're very clear that money going to global south countries to support them with damage done by climate change and environmental breakdown should no longer be referred to as aid. It should never have been referred to as aid. This isn't aid. This is reparation for the damage we have done. And this is exactly the kind of conversation that is happening around the world, and here within XR UK as well, is how do we talk about supporting our brothers and sisters in the global south who are, as I've already said, on the front line of climate and ecological breakdown. And what's also interesting is that they are really saying stop greenwash, which I'll talk about in a moment, because first we're going to go to another clip. You're back with us here in London. I was just explaining to you about the global fight to end fossil fuels and the demands that they have, which I've got very handy here, my little cheat sheet on this flyer. And one of the things they are talking about as well is to end greenwashing. Now, we all know greenwashing is things like, our airport is net zero, but, we're still flying and things like that. But there's more hidden greenwash as well. So things like carbon credits, which encourage mangrove forests to be planted or other forests to be planted. They don't seem as obviously a greenwash thing. They seem like they could potentially be a good thing. But the problem with that is that it's actually encouraging companies to carry on as normal as long as they plant a few more trees. And that is, of course, not what we've got, because we're already are in an overshoot of carbon in the atmosphere. We need to get it out. So the first thing we need to do, obviously, is stop adding more. So planting a few trees, sadly, isn't going to make that work. And they're also saying geoengineering and nature-based solutions are solutions to the climate crisis. It just isn't so. That all needs to happen. We need to have nature-based solutions, but only when we stop putting more into the atmosphere and when we stop destroying more habitats and more ecosystems. So that's a really interesting angle that they are taking there as well. And obviously, we couldn't agree more. If you haven't been there, there is a greenwash website where they regularly give awards for the best greenwashing efforts from various companies. I believe the likes of Shell, HS2 and all that lot have definitely been on that list as well. I think there's talk about having an actual awards ceremony for the best greenwash efforts. So keep an eye on that. It's very amusing, if not very depressing as well. And the interesting thing that they're also talking about here, which we'll go and interview some more expert people in a moment who know much more about this than I do, but also this nuance between net zero and real zero. And this is really something that we need to be talking about as well, because, for example, the UK government are banging on about net zero by 2050. But what does that actually mean? That sadly doesn't actually mean that they're going to stop emitting. It just means that they're somehow going to figure out how they can balance it. And that, of course, just simply isn't good enough when we're at a stage when we need to actively extract carbon out of the atmosphere and back into carbon sinks. So again, this is something that they are highlighting in this campaign. I really recommend just checking it out. Go onto the website, Global Fight to End Fossil Fuels. You'll find it there. It is a great campaign. So I think we'll have a little wander and see if we can have a bit of a chat with the people that are here on the streets with us, and we're being told to walk a bit faster. So we're creating a gap. Bloody live stream team, troublemakers. As you can see, we've got the lovely XR flags here, and this is a coordinated effort between various groups that are active in the UK, protesting against climate change and the lack of effort by the government. So let's have a quick look and see if we can speak to a few people. Why, hello there. Would you be interested to talk to the XR live stream for a moment and tell us about what you're doing here and also about your interesting flyer there? Are you allowed to talk about that?
Absolutely, I'd love to talk about this. So I'm with Extinction Rebellion, we're in Money Rebellion, and we have been targeting a bank called Standard Chartered for the last 12 months. We've been there every week for the last 12 months. Thank you. Anyway, out of that, we've come up with a lot of different approaches to activism, and one of them is that we've come across this guy, Gideon Mendel. He's one of the top photographers in the world, and he has given us a whole lot of his pictures that we're then going to be displaying in and around the city, around the bank area. He has done pictures of climate destruction. So he's focused on things like the world's fire burning, and also he's done a lot around flooding. And what he's done is he's supporting what we do by providing all these pictures for a pop-up display. And so that's coming up on the 5th of October in the morning. So please put it in your diary. Join this group here. Don't know if you can see the QR code there. There's Greenwash as well, greenwash.earth. If you can join, have a look on there. We will be updating with the location as and when it comes out. But otherwise, yeah, no, we're targeting a lot of other banks. We target Barclays and various other places. And yeah, we're here to provide support. It is a brilliant day. Thank you.
What about the insurance actions yesterday?
Yeah, nice one. Tim's just asking, what about the insurance actions yesterday?
So the way that we work in Money Rebellion is for any fossil fuel project to take place, it needs finance and it needs go around to different insurance companies and different banks and say, will you rule out financing? Will you rule out insuring it? So, for example, the two projects on at the moment are ECOP, Staff Pipeline, and also the West Cumbria Mine. The West Cumbria Mine, we've just heard that they are currently looking for 300 millions worth of funding, so they are looking to go ahead with it. So on Friday, we went round to 9 insurance companies, and we asked them to rule out insuring the West Cumbria Mine. So far, 4 insurance companies have, and so we're starting. If we can carry on with that, it would be brilliant. The other thing that we're calling for is for HSBC, who have previously financed the company that owns the West Cumbria Mine. We've asked for them to rule out financing them anymore. So it's a different approach. It does work because it's certainly with ECOP, we've got about 23 insurance companies to rule out insuring, and about 24 or 25 banks now to rule out financing it. So it makes it harder for them to do so.
I mean, this is amazing. And also, I really just want to highlight to people sitting at home, like going to Standard Chartered every single week for a year. What has that been like? I mean, they must start to recognize you and be like, oh, they're here again. It's Thursday. What is that like? Is there some kind of relationship there now, or how does it work?
It's been really interesting. So this is a new approach. With activism, we're just trying lots of different ways of going about things. Some work, some don't work. And I think some of the things we've done have been successful, some haven't. But that's all right. It's what it's about. So we've gone there with 4 clear demands, one of which was that they rule out financing ECOP, which they've ruled out financing. So we've achieved one of our demands, but we've yet to get them to achieve the others. Every week we've gone back with a slightly different message. So every time we hear something in the news, for example, if they're speaking to Adani about any finance there, Adani, of course, the big coal organisation, the one that's expanding their coal output massively. If we hear anything in the news, then we create a leaflet around that and we go there. What's been interesting with this is that I think one of the biggest successes is we've absolutely divided the staff. By giving them a leaflet, it means that they then have the mandate. They've got it allows them to discuss the issue within the bank. So for a start, you then get that discussion going within departments. We're also informing them about things that are going on within the bank. So, for example, a lot of people came up and said, well, we never heard of the East African crude oil pipeline, or we had no idea that we were financing Adani. So it tells them about what's going on. So we've very successfully divided the staff. So now I'd say about 70% of the staff love us, take our leaflets. They're very humorous, a lot of them. And then about 30% basically will not engage. They don't look at us. We get quite a few swear words, but so it's been really interesting in doing that. And that's unsettling within the building, which is what they need. Yeah. So it's been interesting. Have we achieved our aims? No, but they were very ambitious. Yes. I mean, we got got them to agree to one of our 4 demands.
I mean, and it sounds like you're making a huge impact just by being there and causing that sort of divide between people. I mean, there may very well be people without realizing, you may not even know about it, who've decided to maybe start working elsewhere or for it. I mean, you never know. So yeah, this is really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I'd love to say we are having a huge impact. I don't know what it is immeasurable. We can't. There's no way we can quantify. But we do get a lot of the people coming up saying, please keep coming, keep the pressure up. It is having an impact.
Yeah.
But there again, all these banks, they're working within the law, and while the law is so loose about finance, then we're up against it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, thank you so much for everything you're doing. Thank you for explaining it as well. I think a lot of people will be much clearer now on what actions are happening and how can people get involved with Money Rebellion? Where do they go?
Look up. We've got the Money Rebellion website. Have a look up. Just join in. We've got loads of actions coming up. We're keeping going there. Yeah, just write in. You can email into. I think it's moneyrebellion@protonmail.com. And just say that you're interested. We're always looking for more people to get involved. You don't need any expertise. All we just want is people that want to get involved.
Yeah. That sounds brilliant. Thank you so much. That was really great. We'll see you later. Right, let's go and I've just seen a former colleague of mine who I used to do Rebel Radio with, and I know for sure that she will also have a thing or two to say. So, right, hello. Random member of the audience. Would you like to the exile room? Yes, tell us about what you're up to. What are you doing here today?
Well, I am helping hand out flyers so that people know why we're here. And the thing that I'm saying to everybody who's not part of the march is we have got an oil exec as chair of COP28. I think that tells you everything you need to know about whether COP's going to help us sort it out. And then if that sparks up a conversation, what we're talking about is how did we get this president that's an oil exec? And there's a brilliant article in DSMOG this week explaining exactly how the PR firm, Edelman, made that happen, and it's been a strategic comms thing for them. They've worked hard. I mean, it started in 2008.
Wow.
And I think that the thing for me that it just reminded me of the most is, right, we've just got to be honest, these oil companies are not interested in the transition one little bit. If they were, they'd have done it by now. And what I think is really interesting as well is that some of the bigger guns in climate change, like Christiana Figueres, who was the architect of the Paris Agreement that says we've got to stay below 1.5, she has now given up hope on those fossil fuel companies being part of the change. She thought they could be part of the change. And even the mighty Al Gore has come out and said that too. And if you haven't watched his TEDx talk, which is only a month old, it's quite fresh, he is really vociferous about that and really rather angry, yes?
Yeah.
I know that some people in the movement don't think he's quite angry enough. I think he's getting there, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think that we've got to keep telling everybody else about that. Because I think we know here that the fossil fuel companies aren't part of the solution, but they are spending billions telling everybody else that they are part of the solution. And so busy people don't look under headlines. And that is our job, is to help them see what is actually going on here. Because it's a total fraud. I mean, it's just awful. They're selling our future from under our feet.
Yeah.
And because they own all the comms, they're getting away with it. And ordinary people aren't even aware because they're too busy earning money, feeding children, doing all the things. They just look through their feed. It says, oh, COP will sort it out.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, somebody's on it somewhere. I'll just, with my life. No, you're being sold a pup, a really bad pup. So that's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to communicate to everyone else everywhere I go. But, we're being had,
Yeah.
I always think about Johnny at the end of one of his songs of the Sex Pistols. He goes, ever got the feeling you've been had? That's the feeling I've got. Anyway, nice to see you, Mariah.
And I had to think about you, Anna, because there's a lot about greenwash in these demands as well. Can you tell a little bit more? Because you said, you know, people need to check out these greenwash, sort of the best greenwash efforts of the month and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
What is that website again? Can you tell me? Because I really want to point people there.
Greenwash.earth. If you go to greenwash.earth, there's all sorts of things there with greenwash of the month, all that kind of thing. I don't think we've quite got the desmog article up there, but if you Google desmog and Edelman, I think you it. And then also there is a resistance on greenwash, and there you will find the Dirty Scrubbers Guide to Greenwash that will give you a good idea of how these things operate. So Dirty Scrubbers have different departments.
Yes.
So they've got department of doubt, because obviously doubt is all you need to prove as a greenwasher, because nobody wants to believe this is happening. Nobody, it's incredible. You have to pinch yourself, don't you, when you think, well, pinch yourself. Doubt is one of the classic examples of that was the leaking of the emails from the University of Norfolk, was it, or Norwich? Yeah. East Anglia, University of East Anglia in 2008. So they leaked all these emails and made out that the climate scientists were colluding with information, so everybody thought, oh, it's a hoax, but that wasn't true. That was a piece of PR, a piece of greenwash. So doubt's important. Equally important, though, is the Department of Unicorns and Fairy Tales, okay? So in there, what we will find is lots of work on carbon capture technology, like Rishi Sunak announced the Acorn project was going to triple when he announced that he was also going to do some fossil fuel more new licenses. So just to put that in perspective for people, the biggest carbon capture system at the moment is in Iceland, and it can, I can't remember the exact tonnage, right, that it can sequester from the air, but that's as much in a year, that's as much as 876 cars. Okay, so I mean, you can look it up. It's the Iceland one, but this stuff really isn't scalable at the moment. And so I guess the key thing is not that we'll never need it, because we're going to need it, right? But we can't bet the planet on it. The thing that you have to do, more than like, if your house is flooded, what do? You turn off the stopcock, don't you? You don't think, oh, I'll go down the shops and find that new magic sponge that's supposed to soak everything up. So we need to turn the stopcock off. So anyway, more things in fairy tales. Shall I go on? Is that all right, or am I being very boring?
No, this is fascinating.
Okay, so also in fairy tales, if anybody's heard of NEOM, N-E-O-M, so that's the new, well, it's the new Saudi Arabian fantasy place. Where did King Arthur write that?
Like Camelot.
Camelot, it's the Saudi Arabia. And obviously with the Saudis, there's huge budgets. So I mean, it's amazing out. Now the other thing, and very much a kind of greenwash by all the gas companies, but particularly in this country, Centrica, but Centrica do have an American parent, okay, is this perpetual myth of hydrogen being able to be used for domestic heating. It will not be used for domestic heating, because hydrogen, no matter how much PR or gloss you put on it, is still the smallest molecule in the periodic table, which means that it escapes very easily, which means that it is really, really no good for piping long journeys. Not only that, in a liquid form, it corrodes metal. So there's a kind of impression might be able to just pipe it. All those little new housing estates they've all got gas, and they've got gas boilers that are hydrogen ready. And so this creates the impression that you could just switch, from one gas to another, easy peasy. Well, that's not true. It's a big old thing. So that's fairy tales. Now we do have some key tools. We've got our social media, big data, social media reality. So that's how we managed to, get rid of the stories and make the seemingly, I don't know, poor old Hugh Edwards. What a poor Hugh, really sorry for him. And Philip's good. I mean, when it's to get the attention, it's horrendous, isn't it? So we do that. What else? Then also we've got some salaries and alignments, because obviously big oil, extra jobs and lots of elected representatives. Then there is also sponsorship. So the new trend in sponsorship, right, is really, it's a bit harder now because we've made it quite hard, haven't we, to sponsor outright. So what you have to do is you produce a tiny green division. So Adani, are the #1 wind power providers in India. Yeah. Probably because there aren't any others, right? Yeah. But that green Adani has given them the license then to go and do a whole exhibition in the Science Museum. Yeah. And so these are the kind of tricks. Anyway, you can learn all the tricks on the website.
This sounds amazing. So this is all greenwash.earth.
Greenwash.earth, but if you go /resistance/dirty scrubbers or Google dirty scrubbers, it should come up.
That's amazing. I mean, the dirty scrubbers are busy.
They are busy. They might have been coming today, but they're not coming today.
Okay, well, we've got. It's a bit hot as well to be wearing that kit.
So, but look out for us because I think they're going to be quite busy in the autumn.
Nice.
Obviously, greenwashing reaches a peak of crescendo just before COP. Yes. So the scrubbers will be very, and we will guide of how to spot the greenwash. And also coming up are a series of cards that give you each type of denier. We've got 12 different types of climate denier, and then some hints and tips of how to deal with them. So that
sounds amazing. Great. Okay. Thank you so much. Sure. We're going to go see, apparently there's some exciting stuff happening at Parliament Square now. Ooh. So we're going to go and check it out. But thank you so much, Anna. That sounds amazing. And people will definitely be looking for it. See you later. Right, so, going to make... Welcome back to London, to the Global Fight to End Fossil Fuels March. So as you can see, it's not just XR here. Here we're looking at a banner by Fossil Free London, who are obviously also extremely active in the campaigning against fossil fuels. And so we are slowly approaching Parliament Square, which for those of you tuning in from overseas, this is where our House of Parliament are, and it's kind of, I guess, where the power sits. Not on a Saturday, obviously, but we're here to tell them what's happening, what we want them to do. Interestingly enough, in the Netherlands, information has just been leaked that the Dutch government initially thought that their fossil fuel subsidies were up to about 5 billion euros. And they are now discovering that is actually closer to 40 billion euros. So this is a shocking revelation. This has been leaked. This is not yet out in the public domain. Well, it is now out in the public domain, obviously. But it just goes to show that, again, politicians, civil servants, they may very well be thinking that we are exaggerating this fossil fuel subsidy saga, because they might not actually know how much money is going to the fossil fuel companies, because it's a very complex system. It's not like we directly give the fossil fuel companies the money. It has lots of roundabout ways of the way it works, and the subsidies aren't that obvious to track, but it does pile up, and actually we are talking in the billions, the amount of money that fossil fuel companies are getting. Should we have a look here what's happening? I feel like there's a bit of theatrics coming up. So this is the Cut the Ties campaign, directly speaking to Keir Starmer. Where you see he's joined by his pals from Shell, BP, Ineos and Equinor.
Can anyone find coal in the North Sea? Hey, then have more champagne. More oil. Who wants a subsidy? Help yourself. You pay 9p, they pay 91p. We're all winning. 9p is generous. Yeah, well, it's very generous, isn't it? More gas! Fantastic. Who wants a new oil license?
So the message here is quite clear that obviously we have this general election looming over us. And I think the message is quite clear that even if Labour gets to be our new government, there's not much faith that they will actually do anything about subsidies for fossil fuels or take urgent action on the climate or the environment. So a lot of people might think, well, at least it's not the Conservatives. We're not entirely convinced that it's going to make that much difference, and it's a great concern. And of course, it's the reason why in Extinction Rebellion we are campaigning so hard on citizens' assemblies, because only ordinary citizens who are concerned for their own lives, for their communities, they are the ones able and willing to make the tough decisions that need to come in order to get through the climate and ecological emergency. So here we've got some rebels. Let's see what is happening at Parliament Square. It's looking mighty cosy up there. And we'll see if we can talk to some more people as well. Let's see. Oh, hello! Here's another random member of the public who we might interview for the Climate Assembly. No, what are we doing? The Extinction Rebellion. Are you having a nice time? You look very pretty. What have you been seeing? What's been happening?
Well, I sort of missed the beginning of the march, jumped in at the end, but I found you, and it's amazing.
Yeah, lots of people here.
Yeah.
Excellent. Apparently there's some kind of surprise flash mob happening soon, so we might go and have a quick look. But yes, good to see you, and I'll speak to you later. Right, let's go find some more people to talk to. I keep getting confused with what I'm doing, but we're doing the live stream. We're in the live stream. Right, let's have a look. So it's nice and busy here at Parliament Square, right in the centre of London, where people are coming together, lots of different groups and organisations uniting, standing together in the fight against fossil fuels, fossil fuel subsidies, new oil licenses, new gas and coal licenses. And again, I think a lot of people here will be thinking, we can't believe that in this day and age, on this hot 16th of September day, we are having to protest against fossil fuels. Surely it is obvious. surely this is something that everyone should be doing. But obviously it is lagging behind. See if we can find out what is going on.
Good morning, Vietnam.
We're going to have some speakers here, clearly. So let's maybe stand here at the front so we can be near the speeches. So we'll stay here for a moment, although I think there's lots of people joining over there. Let's go see what's happening over there, because there are rumours of a flash mob, which of course I shouldn't really be saying because flash mob should be a surprise, but I want to make sure we don't miss it. And here we are on the grassy lawn of Parliament Square that many of us have written to the government to see if they would like to rewild this space, but no, we still have man versus nature, the grass lawn. Oh, we seem to be joining in with a different march. So perhaps this is not the flash mob scene, but another march. So let's go back. Hi guys, would any of you be interested to talk to the XR live stream about why stop Equinor? What is Equinor and what does it do? Would anyone be interested?
I think
or about Rosebank?
From Rosebank who can talk.
Okay, yeah.
I think Connor's just got to find them. Yes, Connor's just got to find them.
Okay, amazing. Cool, we'll just wait here then. Thank you. Where's Tim? We're just waiting for someone from the Stop Rosebank and Stop Equinor campaign to come and speak to us. Meanwhile, as you can see, if you turn, oh no, yeah, there we go. And behind me, the House of Parliament, where all these decisions get made, and obviously we need that to change, the way the decisions are being made, the kind of people who are making these decisions, the people who can influence these decisions need to be held to account, and basically the whole system needs to change. And that's obviously what we're calling for, right? We're saying system change, not climate change. Let's see if we have anybody here. Hello, I was wondering if anybody would like to talk to the XR live stream about what Rosebank is, what's happening. We've got lots of people protesting, but not many people want to speak to us, which is fair enough. I mean, it is quite, it's quite intimidating. But yeah, so basically, Rosebank is the project in the North Sea where they're planning on drilling for more oil at a time when we should be doing the opposite, obviously, and leaving that oil in the ground where it should be, and looking instead at alternative ways of powering our needs. And what are these needs as well? How much we were talking the other day about things that take up energy which you don't even really realize, like storing your phone, your photos in the cloud and things like that. That takes energy. They've got whole data centers churning out heat and using electricity to store our photos of our cats and our friends. Yeah, my cats. Millions of photos of my cats contributing to climate change. So how do we deal with that? How do we stop doing that? Well, first of all, delete all those photos of cats. But other than that, how do we deal with it? So, here we've got the Silvertown Tunnel. let's see if anyone wants to explain to us about the Silvertown Tunnel, which is another story which you wouldn't believe it if they made it up. Hello, would you be interested in talking to the XR live stream about the Silvertown Tunnel?
Okay, yeah.
So, what is the problem? What's happening?
Well, it's a project that's been in development for many years, and it's a toll tunnel parallel with the Blackwall Tunnel in southeast London. And it's two tunnels that are going to be big enough for HGVs. They've actually now bored 9/10 of the two tunnels, and Sadiq Khan could have stopped it. He does a lot of greenwashing about all the things he's doing to clean up the air, but he gave the final go-ahead for this tunnel, which is going to impact massively on the health of the community in Newham and in North Greenwich. The roads are clogged up, it's going to clog them up even more. It's going to emit tons and tons and tons of carbon during its construction, as well as disrupting people's everyday lives with all the building. And we know that's something that the government doesn't like to happen to people's everyday lives. They don't like disruption to it. And generally it's a really, really bad idea and a disaster for everybody. And they should have been putting that money into public transport and so on, and active travel. The campaign to stop it obviously has had to shift a little bit, and now the emphasis is on trying to persuade them to change the use of the tunnel. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, what would you like the tunnel to be used for?
Well, for people, so bicycles and people on foot, I would imagine.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I've been to some of the protests, and yeah, just thinking about the fact that it's going ahead is just absolute madness. And yeah,
it is complete madness. Please, Sadiq, change the use of the tunnel. Is what I would say.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for speaking to us. I believe there's some speeches happening over there now, so we might go and have a look and see who's speaking. Let's see if Tim is ready to come along to listen to the speeches over there. Let's have a look.
And it's activists like this that are actually making a difference, disrupting the status quo, shutting down new movements. So please join me in warmly welcoming Julie Hashimoto from Stop Rosebank Campaign.
So the first speaker is Julia from the Stop Rosebank campaign, and we're going to go see if we can catch her speech. Julia from the Rosebank campaign, Stop the Rosebank campaign.
Whether it's catastrophic wildfires raging across the globe or the fatal floods flushing away people's lives and livelihoods, our global ecosystems are collapsing rapidly. But you already understand the gravity of all of this. And you know that the cause of this is a system that is addicted to fossil fuels. A system run by oil giants that want to squeeze out every last drop of oil from the earth to turn into profit, no matter how much it harms the rest of us. This is why you're here. Those who don't seem to be getting the memo are the rich governments that are deliberately throwing more fuel on the fire by allowing oil giants to open up more fossil fuel projects. In the UK, our government is considering approving the Rosebank oil field, which would create more CO2 than 28 of the poorest countries do in a year. That's more CO2 from one field in the UK than 700 million people in the global south produce in a year. This is an absolutely shameful and frankly embarrassing position for Rishi Sunak to be in on the world stage. Rishi is in a tiny club of 5 wealthy countries that are responsible for over 51% of new oil and gas developments. These will do nothing to solve the cost of living crisis, the energy crisis, or the climate crisis. But it will deepen our dependence on fossil fuels and make billions for fossil fuel companies. My message to the leaders of these countries is that the world is looking at you. This is your problem. You can no longer allow profiteering oil giants to control your decisions and your words. You have the power to stand up for the future of our life on Earth and put an end to new fossil fuel projects. But we know that justice won't be delivered by leaders or corporations. It will be delivered by the hands of the people. Just in the last 2 years, we have seen the massive proposed Cambo oil field in the UK halted indefinitely following public campaigning. We see the same in Norway with the Wisting oil field put on pause again following targeted campaigning. And the same again in Canada with the Bay du Nord project. And we're not backing down because we have everything to lose. We have won before, we have every intention of doing it again. The people of this world will force an end to all new fossil fuels, and those who stand in our way will not be remembered kindly by history. We say no more. No more tax breaks for oil giants. No more skyrocketing energy bills. No more oil fields that ruin our chances at a livable future. No one acted alone to stop these fields. From direct action, to legal pressure, to political lobbying, to media scrutiny, local community outreach, to online actions, every act added up to force the industry to stop these fields. And we can do it again. By pushing back on every front, together we can delay, block, and eventually stop the Rosebank oil field and start the just transition to clean, affordable energy. You can deliver climate justice. So wherever you are in the UK, no matter your experience or capacity, let's get organized. You can find out more about the Stop Rosebank campaign on social media at Stop Cambo, that's C-A-M-B-O, or at stoprosebank.org.uk. If you want to get more stuck in, we'd love to see you in one of our welcome calls or workshops. So it's been an absolute honor to share the streets with you and millions across the world with you today. I'd love for you to join me in a very quick chant. So when I say stop, you say Rosebank. Stop. Rosebank! Stop. Rosebank! When I say stop, you say Rosebank. Stop. Rosebank! Stop. Rosebank! Thank you in solidarity. Woo!
That was Julia from the Stop Rosebank campaign.
To stop oil fields which we know should never have been opened. It's not for us, it's not for the future, it's not for any of the living planet, it's simply to fill the pockets of greedy, I don't know what to call them, horrible people. Right, we've got some amazing speakers today, and I want you to give them the warmest welcome that you can, because people have travelled a long way to be here today and contribute today to this global fight against fossil fuels. I'm going to introduce next another very special person, amazing activist. We've got Tyrone Scott from War on One. Give him a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who's come out here today in the name of climate justice. Thank you to the amazing speakers before me and the speakers who are still to come next. And thanks to everyone who's come out here to demand and fight for climate justice and an end to the era of fossil fuels. Because right now we face multiple crises, with this unprecedented rising temperatures, a global crisis of inequality, and most recently a global cost of living crisis, all of which are ravaging the lives and lands of the world's poorest and most marginalised community. And these last couple of years have seen climate breakdown wreak havoc across the globe, from record heat waves and fires spreading across Europe, to flooding displacing 33 million people and submerging a third of Pakistan, to the 50 million people pushed into poverty and climate-induced famine in the droughts in the Horn of Africa. The effects of the climate crisis are hitting us all, but it's those least responsible for the crisis who are paying the heaviest price. The need for climate action is ever more pressing. Centuries of colonialism and exploitation have seen global north countries and corporations become rich by extracting massive amounts of wealth from countries in the global south. It's this very same model of exploitation that has caused and perpetuated this climate crisis. Rich, industrialized global north countries have contributed in excess of 92% of historical carbon emissions and 37% of emissions today, yet just home to 15% of the global population. It's poorer, global south countries who have contributed very little to global emissions, yet bear the brunt of extreme climate breakdown, such as the devastating flooding just spoken about in Pakistan. And that's why activists from all over the global south and all over the world are demanding climate reparations, are demanding that rich, industrialized countries in the global north pay their fair share for the damage that they have done. And we echo that call. We demand that rich countries have exploited and extracted everything they can from countries in the global south, who've allowed their major corporations and fossil fuel industries to wreak havoc on the natural habitat and homes across the global south. We demand that they pay their fair share. And that's not just rich industrialized countries themselves who are responsible. We demand that planet-destroying companies like Shell, BP, Equinor, and the rest who constantly announce record profits yet pay nearly nothing in windfall taxes, which in itself is an inadequacy, that they are forced to pay their fair share too. And then these companies now have the audacity to claim that they are environmentally conscious, that they have green credentials, that they are the solution to the climate crisis. We must oppose corporate greenwashing, and we cannot allow these planet-destroying companies to try and co-opt our movement. We've seen what COP28 is going to be like before it's even started. We know that just like last year, it will once again be in the hands of the fossil fuel companies, lobbyists, and apologists. We already know that the COP president, Sultan Al Jaber, is the head of the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. We already know that United Arab Emirates State Oil Company has been able to read emails to and from the Climate Summit Office, has even been consulted on how to respond to media requests. And we know when we get to COP28 in December, are we intertwined with fossil fuels, just like it was in Sharm el-Sheikh last year. And what we'll often see and what we'll often hear the rhetoric about, though, these are oil states, these are the greenwashing, this is why we're seeing this here. But we can't just use that excuse. We hosted COP26 in the UK 2 years ago, and it was exactly the same story there. The fossil fuel lobbyists, the fossil fuel companies and their representatives outweighed everybody else within those buildings for those 2 weeks. When I was at COP26 2 years ago now, and short story, when I got myself kicked out and banned from COP27 for storming that stage when Alex Trump was trying to announce that we had a successful deal. But doing that on that day, and when I went on that stage demanding we need to phase out, not phase down fossil fuels, we are here 2 years again, leading up to COP28, having the same conversation about phasing out or phasing down. We cannot be 2 years later having this conversation again. This is not a 5-year conversation. We need to act now. Now, Rishi Sunak likes talking a big game on climate, likes getting on stage at places like COP27 and talking about how UK is leading on climate action. Yet the UK is the second biggest producer of oil in Europe, and we've just granted over 100 new oil gas licenses in June of this year. And as has just been stated just previously, Rosebank is going to be the same emissions as 28 of the world's poorest countries, continuing our colonial past, continuing our perceived dominance over the world and destruction, no matter what it means to those most vulnerable communities across the world. So we need to refuse this fossil extraction. We need a real, genuine transition that protects both people, planet, jobs, and economy. We need to end these systems of exploitation. And when we do, we need to move into a new system that is not built on exploitation and extraction. We need to say no to green colonialism, where rich global north countries benefit from exploiting global south countries and their resources and extracting everything we can under the pretext of environmental benefit. We cannot go to places like the Democratic Republic of Congo and extract all their cobalt because we think now it's being green. We cannot replicate one model of exploitation and extraction and replace it with another. We need a new way forward. We can't keep tweaking around the edges of this broken system. We need system change now. We need a system that guarantees the crucial 1.5 degree guardrail won't be broken, even though we know we're career free too and headed to much worse if the predictions are correct. We cannot allow fossil fuel and other major corporations who have driven us to the brink of planetary destruction to profess that they are somehow now part of the solution. We have to make sure polluters stay out of COP and stay out of our movement. We need a new tomorrow, and that's a tomorrow without fossil fuels. Thank you.
Solidarity with our Indigenous brothers and sisters who have been fighting this fight for generations, for decades. This is not a new fight. We need to remember the people on the front lines suffering the worst have been on those front lines for decades. Thank you so much, Tyrone. I'm going to introduce right away, without hesitation, our next speaker from Fossil Free London. It's the amazing Robin. Give her a warm welcome. Thank you. Hello, I'm from Fossil Free London. At Fossil Free London, we take the climate fight to the oil executives. We believe that the men running Shell, Equinor, Total and Saudi Aramco have not had their dues yet, have they? And so we go into their corporate events, their champagne receptions, their annual general meetings, and indeed this October, their Oil and Money conference to tell them the truth about the climate crisis and tell them what we think of them. We know that these people have known about the climate crisis since the 1980s, and even in some cases the 1970s, since well before many of us here were born, and when they knew, in fact with astonishing accuracy, what damage their product would do. I mean, imagine this realisation. You run a company and you find that your product can harm people. But not only can it harm people, it can kill people. And not only can it kill people, it can kill thousands, no millions, no billions of people. And not only people now, but people forevermore. And you choose to cover it up, but carry on producing your product? I mean, it's insane and it's beyond evil. Evil doesn't begin to cover that decision. And so it's really, really important that the fossil fuel executives that have made that decision and remake it every single day, that they expand new fossil fuel projects, know that it is unacceptable and society does not accept them, and indeed says that we need to shut down these companies, evict them from our politics, from our city, from our lives and from our society, and say that we need to get their oily money out. Because not only have they polluted our land, our water and our sky, but they've also polluted our politics and the building behind us. It is incredibly difficult for these marches, for these actions to make change, because we know that the government and the fossil fuel industry are in bed together. So what's the solution? It's not petitions, is it? It's not even marches, I hate to say it, is it? It's going to be direct action, and it's going to be us putting our bodies, the only real tool that we have as animals in this world, in the line to stop new oil and gas. And that fight starts here in our city, because these fossil fuel industry executives, they're headquartered here, they have their meetings here, they do their oily deals here. And so we're inviting you this October, between the 14th and the 20th, to come to Oily Money Out. Now, please remember this, okay? It's oilymoneyout.uk, and we need you all to sign up, because we need to know how many people are coming. We're going to have 3 days of workshops and 3 days of action to block this conference at which the oil executives are going to do their oily deals at the Intercontinental Hotel at Park Lane. So join us from the 14th to the 16th for workshops, and then for 3 days of action. And we need you to go to that website, oilymoneyout.uk, and sign up, because we know the change isn't going to be made unless we all take action together. And action that actually blocks these oil and gas decisions that are being made under our noses here in our city behind closed doors. So please join us, come along, and please sign up on the website, oilymoneyout.uk, and there are people in the crowd giving out leaflets. Because the time is now, the seas are rising, we've seen floods, wildfires, the world is burning, climate catastrophe is here, and we know who's accountable, and we need to hold them accountable together. Thank you. I'm very excited. I'm getting excited. I hope you're feeling excited too, because we have to absorb all of this today. We have to carry it with us after today. It's tiring being an activist, day in, day out. We empty ourselves all the time. We give everything we have to give, and it's like, what? We have to keep giving. We have to keep fighting. We have to keep going. So we're here to support one another. It's really important when we turn out together on days like this that we're here for one another as well, because burnout is real. Exhaustion is real, And we have to remember that the people are the many, and the people up there in those buildings, they are the few. They really are the few. We are the majority, and we are speaking out for people that can't be here today. So just, quick moment shouting out to all those who can't be here for all their different reasons, all our siblings across the planet who we're actually campaigning and fighting for. Okay, moving on. More exciting, amazing speakers. I'm very excited. We've got Kevin Baradia from the South Asia Solidarity Group here to speak to you now. Can you please give him a warm welcome?
Thank you, Listener. Hello, everyone. It's an honour and pleasure to be here today. Thank you. Thanks to the organisers for putting it on and asking us to speak. I'm honoured to do that. I'm speaking on behalf of South Asia Solidarity Group. We're a UK-based collective amplifying people's struggles for justice and dignity against all forms of abuses and terror across South Asia. I've been given strict orders to try and beat it in time, so hopefully this will help. So apologies if I'm going to be reading through my text. But India, first to give some context about why South Asia Solidarity Group was asked to speak, I think it's important to remember that South Asia has 25% of the world's population who are facing the existential crisis of climate change. India has some of the most varied flora and fauna to be found anywhere in the world, but many of its prime forests and diverse species, along with its indigenous people who live there, are being destroyed. Pakistan has the most glaciers in the world, over 7,000, which are melting fast, causing widespread food shortages, displacement, and disease. And the same is true in Bangladesh, which is the world's largest mangrove, the Sundarbans. But is the global power India leading on climate change? All I know for certain is that there are senior figures in the Indian government who believe that drinking urine from a cow gets rid of COVID. All jokes aside, in Narendra Modi, India has a prime minister who rules over a fascist regime backed by Western business and finance. Despite overseeing a pogrom and the murder of over 2,000 Muslims in my ancestral homeland of Gujarat, he is India's prime minister and loved by Western leaders. Why? Because he continues to open up India's land, resources, and people to exploitation and plunder, and buys Western military supplies. His party, the BJP, as you may know, is the political arm of a fascist movement that calls for India to be turned into a Hindu state. Modi was instrumental in privatizing India's economy, transferring unimaginable amounts of wealth and democratic power into the hands of a few cronies. These cronies, like Adani and Ambani, are now some of the richest billionaires in the world and provide essentially a limitless amount of funding to the BJP and fascism in India. Adani, a global coal giant tearing through India's forests, is currently greenwashing his crimes by sponsoring a new green exhibition at the Science Museum, whilst Ambani, an enormous conglomerate, bought Hamleys in Regent Street and owns multiple mansions here. Whilst Modi has overseen the rise of billionaires in India, the majority of the country is earning less than £10 a day. The BJP and arms of the state are backing fossil fuel growth and the commercialization of farming and policies that demonize and marginalize Muslims, Dalits, untouchables, and low-caste people. At the state level, local ministers openly platform hate preachers against minorities who have growing numbers of fanatics, calling for the corpses of Muslim women to be dug up and raped. The result is a slow genocide of daily lynchings, murder of indigenous people, women, Dalits, Muslims, Christians, that go without trial and without justice. The mobs are even openly praised by the authorities. If you don't know these names, please learn about the resistance struggles of Soni Suri and Hidme Markham, two land defenders from India. How does Modi get away with all this? He spends millions of dollars each month from his limitless pool of funds to whitewash his image as a man that is cleaning up and modernizing, electrifying the remotest corners of the vast country, and a man who oversaw India's recent mission to the moon. All whilst India's continue to slide down the infant mortality and health rankings. And despite being the so-called world's largest democracy, India has one of the world's worst freedom of press rankings to be found anywhere. If the UK and other leaders want to do business with a fascist government, what does that say of them? What does that say of the voters? I don't have time here to talk about the ethnic cleansing going on in Kashmir, where Israeli weapons manufactured from funding from the US have created the world's most militarized zone, or Sri Lanka's IMF imposed debt and austerity to open up its markets for further foreign investment, or Bangladeshis being disciplined to produce fast fashion for Western shareholders. What politics in India, UK, and most places on earth show us is that governments do not work for people. They work for corporates. And it is important to remember that they've been doing this for 500 years.
We want Probitas to say no to ensuring this dangerous and irresponsible project. You are insurers. You are society's risk managers.
We're here today to ask Probitas Insurance Company not to insure the West Cumbria coal mine. So this is part of a series of actions going on all over the country today, hoping that these insurance companies will do the right thing to publicly state that they will not insure the West Cumbria coal mine.
Millions more across the world are saying no to fossil fuels. No to fossil fuels. No to West Cumbria coal mine. No to the West Cumbria coal mine.
Here in Manchester are the offices of several really important insurance companies. They're all insurance companies that are part of Lloyd's of London, and they have the power to actually shape our future. Because if they decide not to insure the West Cumbria coal mine, then the coal mine simply can't go ahead.
Well, most people know that today the last thing you do for the sake of the environment and the planet is to open a coal mine. So we're encouraging this company to join others in saying, no, we will not insure it.
Surely, looking at the risk of climate breakdown, this is a no-brainer. We should not need to be here asking you to do what clearly needs doing.
Coal mine can't operate without insurance. So that's why we're here today. There's a coalition of groups. I'm here with Extinction Rebellion, and we've created a sort of performative, family-friendly action with a bunch of canaries, human canaries. You'll remember the metaphor, the canary in the coal mine, and so the canaries are highlighting the fact that the coal mine is toxic and it must not go ahead.
fossil fuels! Stop funding 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 fossil fuels!
And with your help, we can get it out there, where all the world's workers and all the oppressed can come together and start building a green and peaceful planet. Thank you.
Did you catch that? Revolutionaryreparations.org. This is why we need to have hope, because so much of the work has been done, which is already visioned the way we can be, instead of what we have, which is this, hangover from the imperialist time, which hasn't ended. Colonialism hasn't ended. So if you don't know about some of the things that Kaval was talking about, do some research. Find out about these terms you haven't heard before, because we're all here in solidarity and to amplify one another's work. Well done. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Okay, coming up next, we have the wonderful, the inspiring Mel Mullins from the RMT Union and Black Lives Matter, Croydon. Welcome to Mel. Greetings, greetings. Wonderful to see so many of you out here. Just to say, I've come back from Liverpool at the TUC, and unfortunately, the debates on climate change were shut down. They were closed in, and we didn't have many people debating on it, right? So we want everybody to be tweeting these things. Go and find out, and make sure that the TUC know that climate change needs to be really, really debated, and it needs to be taken up by the trade union movement even more, right? So, thank you. Well, I'm blessed to be a climate change activist, and I've got so many brilliant comrades who understand my industry. So I'm a train driver for the Underground, yeah? And they've shared with me what the biggest emergencies are within the transport industry. So the RMT and others, have recently worked on a produce called Our Power Report. It's a workers' plan for transition out of fossil fuels extraction and into renewables, and we demand our industries to decarbonise. Our amazing black sister Alex C, give a hand to Alex C from Extinction Rebellion. She came to our black workers for the RMT and advised us on quite a lot. And she, gave us, a flavour of what's to come. So as you know, capitalism is the main reason driving climate breakdown and exploits and degrades the planet, and the same way exploits and degrades workers' labour. We must push and point out the tube, train and underground staff will be affected. We're on the first line of this climate change, and we are the frontline workers, and it's at an accelerated level. Staff will suffocate under the heat, will have heart attacks, especially those with inherited conditions, and we're talking about a lot of black workers. We will need new training, etc. And this is something that we'll have to depend on the government for. And does the government care about climate change? So we'll need new training, new equipment, new safety messages put in place, new warning systems, evacuation practices. The Thames Barrier have moved their upgrade programme by 15 years. So obviously, Transport for London and others need to move their plans a lot further along. We need to be greener. We need transport to be greener. We need it to be cheaper. We need to get people off the roads and onto public transport. This is going to be hell on earth for some of our transport staff. And I want to say, in Jamaica they say, who don't hear will feel. Please don't let us be the people who feel this. We need to hear the message that is being put out there, and we need to move. And just to say, I want to highlight, the next speaker is going to be Delia Mattis from PLM Enfield, right? And she had one of the biggest campaigns for the Edmonton incinerator, right? And when that system went through, regardless of all the opposition from the community, they didn't just sit back and support all the political parties. They went and put their own candidates up, right? They did independent canvassing and campaigning and nearly got one of their members through. And I want to say that's true activism. Stop depending on the government and
and get our people in place so we can get the change that we deserve. Thank you, and keep on campaigning as much as we can. Big up. No violence, don't stop. Keep it going, keep it going. No violence. And keep it going for Demonstrators. See, the founder of BLM Enfield and one of the leaders of the Edmonton Incinerator campaign. Please, this is an amazing woman we've got right here, and I'm so happy you're here today. Thank you, thank you.
Good afternoon, thank you yourself. Let's go. Good afternoon. I'm used to this from Rick. Hello, Rick. I've missed you. Have you missed me? Good afternoon, everybody. Can I just say, I saw some messages in a WhatsApp chat from the Stop the Edmonton Incinerator campaign group, so I'm guessing there are some people here from that campaign, right? Okay, I can hear a few whoop whoops, so that's good. Thank you. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the incineration in working class communities. Communities that have a high population of black and brown people. And that's the places where they decide, they choose. It's a deliberate thing that they do to build incinerators in poor, poverty-stricken communities. When we had COVID-19, the rate of COVID that raged through Edmonton was over 50% the national average. And you can't tell me that having an incinerator that burns the waste of 7 whole boroughs doesn't have something to do with that. The government is reckless because they had an opportunity to stop this and they did nothing. Our local parties, actually all of the fucking parties, they're all reckless because you know what? We don't need like mealy-mouthed messages. We need action. We need policies. We've got the power. We've got the funds, but they decide to do nothing about it. And it's true what Mel said. If we can't depend on our local parties, if we can't depend on the Labour Party, the Tory Party, all of the parties, we need to start standing our own people. We need to stand our own candidates so we can affect change in power. It's a shame. It's a shame. Yeah. And that's what we did. That's what we did in Edmonton. And I'm very proud of that campaign. Let me tell you something else. The mood was there because in 4 weeks, we almost destroyed the majority. The mood was there. We got 2/3 of the Labour vote in 4 weeks' time. Imagine what we could do in a year. Imagine what we could do if we invested in a campaign for independence who care about the breathing of fresh air. Imagine what we could do if we focused and invested in that kind of campaign. And you know something? We're going to do it again. We have to do it again because in such a short space of time, the community responded to us. And that means there is a need. There is a dying need. We can't stand still and wait for these useless people to help us while the planet burns. We can't keep standing still and we can't wait for them to change their mind and do something. It's us, the activists, ordinary people in the street that have to force political change. And it's always been that way. So, you know, I'm here. People say, why is Black Lives Matter so involved in Extinction Rebellion? Well, because it's our country, you know, it's our countries that suffer the most. If you remember a few years ago in Jamaica, floodwater running through inner cities, buildings just floating by. That is a direct result of climate change. Who feels it knows it, and we feel it the most. And that's why these powers in these westernized countries don't care, because they're not yet affected by like the Caribbean and like parts of Africa. That's why they sit on their hands and do nothing. And that's why I say we have to do more. This is a political issue. I know people say we don't want to bring the politics into it. We've got to, because it is a political issue. And we need to take a stand. We can't keep just kind of coming out and doing this and nothing behind it. We have to start to properly politically organise and mobilise communities around this issue. Because, you know, communities may not be here, but they do care. Communities care about the right to breathe clean air, and that's what we're campaigning for. So, that's what Black Lives Matter is doing here. So if you believe in Black Lives Matter, chant with me. Whose lives matter? Black Lives Matter! Okay, I need a bit more chest. I need a bit more oomph. Okay, we'll go again. Whose lives matter?
Black lives matter!
Oh, whose lives matter?
Black lives matter!
It's so important to have that because even Melly's video, which is live streaming, and we're off to Peckham where a black woman was subjected to the worst racist attack in a store in Peckham, a store that sells goods, and the custom is 99% black, and they still treat us like we are nothing. So I still came here in solidarity because this issue is so important, and I'm hearing a lot of people from the Caribbean and Africa talking about the issue of the climate crisis. So it is important to always be on these platforms and speak from our communities, but it's also important to see the solidarity from you guys, where in our communities like Peckham. So when we're there, we'll be showing them the footage and you chatting with me. And let's just go one more time. Whose lives matter?
Black lives matter!
Whose lives matter?
Black lives matter!
Listen, I'm going to end with this because we really do have to shoot off, but there is no climate justice without racial justice. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't even make sense. There is no climate justice without racial justice. Okay? So in your campaigning, you have to remember to try and include the communities that suffer the most. You're doing a bit better. Mel just mentioned Alex C. a while ago, and she's an incredible sister. She's an incredible sister. She's ex-op, but she's also Black Lives Matter by birth. Yeah? So, but we have to do more to try and include communities in your campaigning because we should be a part of it. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you, love and peace, and solidarity.
So if you didn't catch all of what Dilly was talking about, they ran an amazing campaign in Edmonton during the local elections. You can do it where you live as well. So find out more about what they did in Edmonton. We've got lots of things coming up this year when the elections are happening about doing a flat pack democracy or a kind of democracy where you get together as independents. No one's got any faith in party politics. We all agree on that. So stand yourself, represent your street, represent your community. You're way more qualified to be leading the country than the people in that building. So get on and do it. No one's coming to save us. Right, sorry, little rant. I'm so excited to introduce this person. I do have a little fan crush on this person. Right, so from War on One, from the Climate Justice Coalition. A few years ago, they were doing amazing coalition building for the COP26 in Glasgow. Who was there? Woo! It is the only one and only Assad
So, friends, sisters, brothers, thank you to all of the amazing speakers and of course to all of you. It's always difficult to go at the end because all the people have said all the things that you need to say, so I feel like saying ditto and walking up there. I'm not going to repeat what everybody said. I just want to remind us that today, all over the world, from the Philippines to Indonesia, from Nepal to India, from Uganda to Colombia, from Australia to Belgium, and of course all over the UK and here, people are on the streets, are marching, calling for justice, raising their voice for climate justice, not only for an end to fossil fuels, but for energy to be clean and green, but also for energy to be a right for all, owned by us, for us, calling for system change. We know this week our Prime Minister will jet off to join world leaders in New York, where the billionaires will be slapping each other on the back, fossil fuel giants, food giants, corporate giants, popping their champagne. They've never had it so good. And these are, of course, not only the merchants of doom and of death, people who have been profiting from misery, but they're the kleptomaniacs who have looted the planet's wealth and its resources. They're the arsonists who set our planet ablaze. They're the psychopaths who seek profit even as our ecosystems collapse. Their bottom line can be counted in the dead, the drowned, the burned, the hungry, the marginalised, the repressed, and of course the murdered. The UN now calls this moment the era of global boiling. They say We have a litany of shame, of broken promises, that the very future of humanity hangs in the balance. But we all know, of course, it's a time of monsters. And these are not monsters that hide under our beds. These are monsters in suits. They sit in the corporate boardrooms. They sit in that building over there. They sit in our media giants. And for them, facts don't matter. The science doesn't matter. And people don't matter. The only thing that matters to them is money. And for 500 years, as we've heard, that system and these monsters have been in charge of our world. They've created a system of racialised capitalism, one of exploitation and extraction, which values nothing and nobody. But you know what, when I was standing here just listening to the speeches, I was looking at this row of statues, these 3 statues that are here. One against colonialism, one from the struggle against apartheid, and one from the struggle for women's rights. And you know that if they were here right now, they would be standing with us. They'd be standing in this process. Because friends, let's be clear, this fight isn't simply a fight about fossil fuels. It's a fight for justice. And as you heard from the other speakers, it's a fight for racial justice, for economic justice, for gender justice, for social justice, and for political justice. And of course, every time you turn on the television and you see the images, whether it's the fires in Greece, the dead in Libya, every corner of the world now touched by disaster, there are moments when you can be disheartened. But you know what? I'm not disheartened. Because I also see that their system is crumbling. That system of exploitation and extraction is crumbling around them. And we all know that this fight, this is a life and death fight. There is nobody else who's going to come to save us. This is, of course, not an easy fight. I'm not saying it's easy, because we are not simply about ending one thing. We're about creating something else. We're about creating a new world, a fairer world, a just world, a green world, a world where everybody has the right to live in dignity, and a world where we live in harmony with all our other fellow species and our planet. And we know those merchants of doom in there, in this moment of crisis, they have no answer. Their only answer is fascism and authoritarianism, of bigotry and hatred and of division. But we have an answer to that. And ours is a message of love and solidarity. And it's that love and solidarity, as we heard from the previous speakers, why this movement so proudly says our climate justice movement is one where Black lives matter, where poor lives matter, where workers' rights matter. Because that's the movement we are creating. A movement of movement, connecting our struggles, connecting minds, connecting our visions, willing to fight and able to fight. So, let's be clear. I'm not interested in a just transition. I'm interested in a justice transition. A transition away from this world to a better and fairer world. And friends, let's be in no doubt, because these 3 statues tell us a story. They tell us a story of how ordinary people changed the world in the past. That was never given to us by the elites and politicians. Ordinary people came together and reshaped that world and made the world a different place. And that's our struggle now, that we together can make this world a different and a better place. That we have to do that again. We all know what needs to be done. We know it can be done. What matters now is a simple question of power. Our power versus their power. And our power lies in people. And people are the one thing that politicians, the elites and the corporate giants fear the most. They fear ordinary people. They fear us when we come together, not just as individuals, but collectively in organisations and in building movements. And that's our biggest challenge now, to build our movement. So one day, in this strip of statues, there will be another statue. And it will be a statue to a movement of movements. It'll be a statue to ordinary people who came together and changed the world. Peace and love, solidarity.
You're part of it. You are the movement of movements right here. Thank you so much. I feel emotional. We're going to get up, get on your feet. We're going to dance. Come on, people. We're going to shake and dance. You're going to be taught a little song. I'm just so grateful to all our speakers. Can we give them another massive round of applause to all our speakers today that are here together with you in this fight, in this global solidarity fight to end fossil fuels once and for all. Right. Where is she? There. Come on, where's your helper? Right, we're going to be teaching you some lyrics, maybe some dance moves. I'll just make up the dance moves anyway.
Yeah.
Here's Kim Way with The Flash Mob.
I don't know if you've noticed, but this summer the world has been on fire. And I don't know if you've noticed, around and about here, we've heard from some liars to come forward onto the dance floor, dance with us, and sing with me. Sing with us as we sing. Liar, liar, the world's on fire. The world's on fire. What we gonna do when it all burns down? Fire, fire, burning higher. Still got time to turn it all around. Liar, liar, the world's on fire. What you gonna do when it all burns down? Fire, fire, burning higher. Still got time to turn it all around. Sing with us. Liar, liar, the world's on fire. What you gonna do when it all burns down? Fire, fire, burning higher. Still got time to turn it all around. Liar, liar, the world's on fire. What you gonna do when it all burns down?
So anyway, as we're waiting, while there's a bit of a technical issue, we just heard from some amazing people. We heard from War on Want. We heard from the Edmonton Incinerator Campaign. We heard from...
1, 2, 3.
Oh, and we're back, we're back.
Hi everyone, we're in Oxford. We're just about to start a Mothers Rebellion. We're being joined by mothers in 77 different cities across 24 countries in 6 continents. This is absolutely incredible. Some of the places taking part in India, Nigeria, Zambia, DRC, Indonesia, and also quite a few different European countries such as Germany, France, Italy, and here in the UK. As a mother, I'm a mother of 2, and I am utterly terrified for the future of my kids. And with the recent floods and heat waves, it's so obvious that climate crisis is happening right now. My thoughts and prayers are with those in Libya. There are 11,000 people who have lost their lives and 10,000 people who are missing from Storm Daniel that hit a few days ago. And even like last week, the heat waves across Europe, it was so uncomfortable. You just cannot fail to notice that this is happening now. But we're here not because of us, it's because of our children. And did you know that 1 billion of the 2.2 billion children who live in the world are living in one of the 33 countries which are at extreme risk of the effects of climate change? This is absolutely shocking. And another alarming fact is that every single child on this planet has been exposed to some sort of extreme climate change or stress. And like the climate crisis is a child's health crisis, and the government need to do something about it. So we're here today with the Mothers Rebellion because we are demanding that that we reduce emissions to net zero by 2025. We start protecting our precious ecosystem and start restoring it as well. And we need to address social inequality because the climate crisis is it's a social crisis too. We need social equality. So I will send it on the clip when we all sat down. But yes, keep tuned for our updates, and thanks for watching. So we have now formed a circle on Hall Market Street for the Mothers Rebellion, and I'm just going to have a chat with one of the mothers present. Hi, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about why you're here?
Hi, my name's Megan. I'm here for Clemmy, who's nearly 4, and I'm here in solidarity with mothers and parents all over the world who are terrified for their children's futures. No parent should have to be scared about what the future holds for their children, but all over the world people are frightened about the droughts, the floods, the catastrophic consequences of climate change and ecological breakdown, and every year that we go on burning fossil fuels, we go on contributing to this crisis. So yeah, I'm here in solidarity with everyone else who's sitting here and with mothers and parents across the world. We just are going to fight tooth and nail for a livable future for our children.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Thank you.
That was Mothers Rebellion in Oxford, who were out there joining this global end to fossil fuels call by so many people all over the planet. Over 40 actions here in the UK over these 3 days, over 400 actions worldwide. And tomorrow is the big one in New York City, where they are protesting, and Tim just told me the Twitter account and now I can't remember. We can't remember, but we'll post it on at Fight Fossil Fuels. Yeah, at Fight Fossils. Okay, I'm really sorry, my brain is like a goldfish, although apparently that's a myth. apparently they have quite good brain power. But anyway, so here we are, House of Parliament behind us. Obviously, that lot aren't here today because it is a Saturday. It's us, the people, hard at work today, making our voices heard, making people understand what the problems are, the subsidies, the licensing, the exploitation of people and nature and our planet Earth. All these things, racism, injustice, it's all interconnected, as we just heard from these fabulous speakers who came here today to explain to us the issues and how it's all intrinsically linked and joined and connected, and how we need to all stand together. We cannot afford to be divided at this stage. So this has been a lovely solidarity coalition day. It's been wonderful to know that while we were out here in London, people were doing things all over the country and all over the world. So yeah, come and be involved next time if you can. If not, there are things you can do online. If you go to the End Fossil Fuels, the Fight Against Fossil Fuels website, there's lots of things you can do there online in terms of social media. So get involved. There's always things that you can get involved with. So please do not stay silent. Please let your voice be heard. Join your voice to this chorus of voices that we have here today. Thank you very much for watching the XR live stream. We'll be back again soon. I'm not sure with what, but there's lots of things happening, so stay tuned and enjoy the rest of your weekend and keep up the good fight. Thank you. Bye.